Welcome everyone, and today I'm just going to run through the Wynfest Festival, which I've just recently fished at Westwood Lakes. The reason why I'm doing this is just feel I've learnt a few things what was important I want to get across and just to share with you guys. So for everyone that doesn't know the Wynfest Festival, it's a fantastic festival run by Tony Winnick. You arrive on the Friday, get your lodge, nice massive lodge, big hot tub, you just chill out there on the Friday, a few beers, and then it's down to the serious stuff on Saturday. Now, this year is slightly different to normal. Obviously, with everything going on at the minute and restrictions in place, Tony's done a great job. They're faultless any before all this, but even with the restrictions, they were perfect. Now, the draw was done on the Wednesday for the rotation, and what I mean by this is there's 3 lakes being used. Well, 4 lakes, but 3 rotations, so A, B and C. Now, in A section it was Skylark, B section it was Falcon, and then C section was split with Osprey and Swallow, so you could either be on one or the other. Now, on the Wednesday, the draw was done for this, so they had all the balls in the bucket, drew it out what section you were going to. Now, I didn't want to draw anyone in my lodge. You just think you just take points off each other and stuff like that, and lucky enough I was drawing A section. Now, there's still some class anglers in that. It wasn't as easy as that, but I've managed to avoid the lads I'm staying with, so you can have a good crack and you can get a bit of information how the lakes are fished as they go round and you go round. So that's really valuable when you're on a festival. Just hope you get on a different lake to someone else that you're staying with, and then you can transfer information and use it wisely. Like I said, got there on the Friday. Me and Dan had a quick fish on Falcon, and it was apparent that like maggots were going to be a brilliant bait. So I've sat down on Falcon with Dan. Dan wanted to fish. He's never seen Westwood Lakes before, so he's had a quick fish. I've just sat there. It started raining, so we had to call it a day, and we got straight in the hot tub and a few beers. And really enjoyable. Now, like I said before, Tony has run a great festival this year. Considering all the restrictions, you can't thank him enough, really. He still put it on. There's still 90 anglers and everyone felt safe. We had set breakfast times from the Westwood Lakes team, set bait shop times. Draw was done in the morning, all through Facebook Live, so there was no contact of anything else. Just go straight to your peg, fish, get weighed in. There are only 2 people weighing in. Get back to your lodge or in the bar, and it's all brilliant. So what I'm going to do now is run you through the first day, second day, third day, little things I've picked up, tackle that I wouldn't be without, to be fair. And if you ever go on a festival, it's worth thinking about little things like this, just because you're there for such a long time and things can change quickly. So what I'm going to do now is run through the first day. Right, so the first day I was drawn on the A section, which is Skylark. Now, this to me is a really frustrating lake. I never seem to get it right. I never seem to catch enough fish, but I never just need to go that extra mile. And this year I wanted to get it right, and I didn't want to fall in the trap of setting too much up and getting too confused. And to be honest, sitting here now, I think I did again, and that's what annoyed me the most. Coming off the bank, I got set in this way of trying to just catch fish, and when I should have just settled down on a few methods and just ticked over. Now, if you haven't seen Skylark, I drew peg 12. Now, got a little video on my peg now, I'm just spinning around. You've got a nice edge to my left, that's my spare peg that way. Coming down as a centre track across to the far bank, it's about 14 metres, and then I had an angler on peg 11. So this kept everything nice and simple. I could just fish 5 metres down the edge to my left where I had a bit of space and across. I also set up a hard pellet rig just a metre off the bank, just in case I couldn't catch across, because it can be quite frustrating to catch them across on this lake with micro pellets and expander. And I never made any ground bait up. Now, in the past, I've never seen it work on there, and this is one of the faults I made. I'll come back to it a little bit later on the day. It probably cost me a few more point and not winning the festival, but it's just the little things that I'd normally do it and I didn't. Now I've set up tight in the edge, down the shelf in about 2 and a bit foot, down the middle on maggots just to tick over if it was a bit hard and I couldn't get any bites. Like I said, across with expanders and micros, it's about 20-inch deep, so just nice depth for them carp to come into. And Skylark, you're fishing for 3 to 5 pound fish, so you can fish basically like carp fishing but on a snake lake. Now, my match has started lovely, to be fair. I've caught 7 in the edge, first 40 minutes, just down the slope. I think I had like 3 carp, rest F1s, but they were big F1s, so I wasn't that bothered. And I've tried to think the average of £3 fish, so you can work off that. Now I've caught 7 there. I've shipped across and caught 2 dead quick, and I thought, oh, happy days, and just tick over later on in the day down the edge, maybe drop short, and I'll just tick over on this across line. And then it's become apparent that I've been feeding the cross, keep feeding, keep shipping back, keep feeding, and not many fish are coming in my peg. I'm getting odd 1s and 2s and missing a few bites. I was getting frustrated with it. Now, I'm no, like I say, got it fishing across. I think the worst thing for me is fishing across to the far bank in the mud. I need to work on it. I've said it before in the past, and I really should have just gone a couple of days before or weeks before, just to practice that shipping in and out, because it can be costly if you get it wrong. Now, I couldn't get the fish coming in the peg. Now this is where the ground bait situation comes in. Early days, I've got a few fish in my net. I got up to like 15 fish with 2 hours to go, I think it was, which is not, it's not great, but these fish in Skylark, the big, the 3 to 5 pound, even bigger some of them, you can catch them down the edge really quickly late on if you need to. But I couldn't get any fish coming in my peg. It's really hard to catch them. Now, Alex Reynolds on 15, he's catching really well across, and I'm thinking, I think I'm fishing the wrong bait, because I could see his hook bait. It was a big bunch of bait, so I'm thinking maggots. He's feeding with a slightly bigger cab pot, so ground bait, and that's where I've messed up there. And I started kicking myself, because I should have had the ground bait set up there just to try it if I needed to. Now, I'd never seen Skylark like this before. I've been a bit stubborn really, trying to just set to a plan, a micropellets and expander, but it's cost me this time. But looking back, should have just changed it to ground bait and maggots, and I might have nicked a few fish. Now, with 2 hours to go, it's got me that frustrating, that across line with not enough fish coming in, and when they come in I missed them, and it was really hard to catch them. I've come off the bank on this hard pellet line, rattled a few pellets in, thinking just need a run of fish, and I've had 12 carp in the next hour and 20 minutes across, so it's nice and steady, no missed bites. It was just perfect, and I was kicking myself again because I should have just fished this line. I have confidence in our pellets. I've done it a lot. I have a lot more confidence in fishing across. I'm probably catching the same fish, so I didn't really think. And that's where I probably thought I should have done this earlier. Anyway, I dropped short on maggots just to have a quick look. Had a couple of big bream. And then this is where it's really weird. There was no fish in my section really getting caught on the edge. Nothing to my right and nothing to my left. Dropped in on the bottom on maggots, just fishing a short kit, short 4, number 5, just in the little bit deep water. It's only 3 foot deep there, down the middle. And I've had 4 carp in 4 chucks. Now I'm thinking, with them carp coming into that track, they're going to come up the edge. And I've dropped in the edge, and I had 2 or 3 in the edge, and just in that slightly deeper shelf later on. And I've finished with 38 fish for £123. Now this is second in the section behind Alex. He's done really well. He's won the lake with 165, so well done, mate. But the second in section wasn't a bad start for the first day. I was kicking myself because I didn't set any ground bait up, just because it might not have worked, but I just wanted it there, and I normally have everything set up to cover my options if I need to. So that was the first day. Second in section wasn't too bad. Caught a few fish, had a nice day's fishing, but on to the second day, and then we're going to go on to Falcon now. Right, so the second day I was on Falcon, peg 10. Now if you look at the peg now, it's panning round now. I'm just on a slight bend. Now this area of the lake has been really good in the past couple of weeks. Seen it one on the Tuesday, peg 10, £130, and it's known the early numbers for being a great area of the lake, so I was really happy to be there. Now, I've had a simple match. I've only set up micro pellets. I had some ground with me today. I didn't want to make that mistake again, and some maggots. And all I was going to do is fish a top kit on soft pellets to start with, just expanders, using the dead shit ones, just so it's just a little bit heavier than my light ones. And when you're catching a lot of fish, I just think that's a little bit better, just to get your bait straight to the bottom. Just resettles a lot quicker when it wafts and stuff like that. So I've fished there with soft pellets. I've set up maggots at 5 meters up and down on the bottom. It's only like 4 foot deep on the bottom, so it's perfect if they wanted to fish on the bottom, but these fish are known for coming shallow. and I threw some maggots just slightly down a slope and 2 foot on a top 5, just so I can get some bites and keep ticking over throughout the day. Now I did set up a cross, but it was quite windy on the day, so I didn't really pick it up. I didn't need to pick it up, I just got bites wherever I went from my 3 lines. Now as you can see, the peg had the wind coming down at me, so when I started down the edge I've had 18 fish the first 40 minutes, and then I've just ticked over, catching some fish on the bottom, some fish shallow, and then when it died I just concentrated down my edges. I never went back on the pellets, concentrating down my edges, throwing maggots, and maggots on the bottom, maggots shallow. Now I had a slow 4th hour, and I thought, this is fading on me now. I need to make a decision. I need to make an area in my peg where I need to keep catching some fish. So I decided from the day before's lesson to just put a cup and kit, fill it half with ground bait, half with maggots, and just plonk it where I was fishing pellets and just throw some maggots on. What I felt like this is going to draw some fish in. It's a throwaway line because I'm catching on these 2 lines anyway, but if it comes good, I can get a late run of fish. And this is what happened. What happened was I had a good run of 2 lines, and one, because you know when I said my peg, the wind's coming at me, the wind died. So I could fish shallow properly without any tow on my rig, and you're catching them quite shallow, like 8 to 10 inches deep. And I caught, well, kinder potting maggots, 3 on the up, just fishing on a top kit. I caught some bigger carp and some bigger F1s there. It pulled me out of the rubbish really, because I felt I was getting behind. I could see Bill Reynolds and Billy catching. I thought, right, I need to get enough fish in the net now. Now, at the end, I've had 103 fish. Tony's come round weighing into the 135 pounds winning, which I thought would be close to the 103 fish. I thought they'd go slightly more than they did, but they didn't. 137, which won the section. Luckily enough, there's that small change, there's that £2 difference it can be. I had a £3 carp last chuck, and that makes all the difference in these festivals to the points. So I was made up with that. I got 3 points. Oh, I think Tony's done it on high points, so I've done 15 out of 16 points. It's put me in the race for tomorrow. I think there was 5 people on 2 wins, and then there was a few of us on a win in the second, so it put it all into perspective for the last day. So we're going to move on to the last day now. The 3rd day was my turn to be on osprey or swallow. Now this is a split rotation, and looking forward to the draw, I was thinking, if I can get on osprey, I feel like it's a fish race, and if you can keep in the race all day, and this is the style of fishing I love, is just getting bites constantly, then I'd have a better chance than say on swallow, where the fish were a bit bigger and it was a little bit peggier on there. But I just wanted to draw a section which I felt was fair and you can compete on. So when Tony's done the draw, he's pulled me out 6 on osprey. Now this is probably the best area on the lake, they were saying. I wasn't on it. I think Christian and Will Reynolds were on it the first day and they had a good 2 weights. I think Will had 113, Christian was behind him with 108. So it's been some fish there. And this is one mistake, I didn't check the weights for the second day, which I should have done, because it would just give me instead. But all my mates in the lodge were on this apart from one on the first day, and they said it's absolutely manic for 2 hours and then it slowly dies off. So I'm thinking, right, need to set my stall out here to catch as many fish as I can before it dies. Now in my section I had one of the absolute legends of Westwood Lakes, Richard Kingsley, and you don't want him in your section because he is fantastic at that fishery. I watched him on the Saturday across from me on Skylark. He just got it sussed. He won a section off probably one of the poorest areas of Falcon, and you don't want him in your section. But if I won my section, it put me probably guaranteed top 4 if I beat him. Now he's a lovely bloke. We have a good chat every time I've seen him. He helped me out last year at the festival and we were chatting at the end. But we had a good battle. But if you ever need any tips and info, he's the man to ask because he catches some fish up there. But anyway, back to the match. I've drew peg 6. Now if you look at the peg now, the water was it's well down the lake. You're just scanning round and there's some reeds across and there's some mud hole and some reeds. And then there's a pipe to my right down the edge. Now, when I've plumbed up this, it's been like 8-10 inches deep, tight into the bank, and then slopes down to a nice little flat bit of like 18 inch, and it goes into the track. And it's only like 2.5 foot, 3 foot in the track. So I thought, right, I've give my good mate Andy Bennett a ring, and to be fair, he helped me out on the day before as well, because he is fantastic at this fishery. I'm lucky to be able to speak to him, but he's the man with the knowledge. He knows everything. I can't take any credit for the methods and stuff I've fished. He told me how to fish him. I should have mentioned it before on Falcon, but I forgot. But he is the man. I spoke to him and he said, you want to set up a line up the shelf, down the shelf and down the middle, and then across if you need to. So thanks for him for that one. I did forget to mention it in the Falcon, but it just fantastic. He put me right and it just worked good stead. So I've set up the shelf in 8 to 10 inches of water with pellets, down the shelf in like 18 inches, and I've set up maggots at 5 metres. Set up 2 rigs on that line, 4x10, 4x12, just in case the fish were sitting off bottom a little bit and they wanted it on the drop, and you can catch them on the settle. Now, when I spoke to everyone, they said the first hour is manic. They said the first 2 minutes you'll feed and your lassie gets pulled out from one. I thought, oh right. So I've gone in, me cut down, small Preston pot, just with a few micros in, tipped it in, sat there, it's not moved. I've not even had a fish come in. I've looked up the lake. I fed again, sorry, and I looked up the lake and no one had a fish on. I'm thinking, they'll have me on here. They said it was black. Anyway, gone in, nothing. So I'm like, right, well, I've come back, changed my pot, put the medium pot on, and I've set up ground bait again this time. Put some micros in my ground bait, pushed it in, dropped it in, sat there, one's come in. So I'm thinking, right, well, I've got one to come up the shelf now. That's ideal. I've ticked over there, I've caught probably 30, 40 fish just on a top kit on pellets to start with. Just up this shelf and dropping down when I couldn't get any bites. Now, they said it was going to go manic, and I could see Richie wasn't really catching. Not a lot of fish. He was trying other lines and not catching. There's a lad next to me not really catching up the lake. I couldn't really see anyone catching. I seen someone ship across it earlier as well, and I thought, this is a sign the lake's not fishing normal, like to what the past 2 days have been. So all I've done is just persevered on this top kit line for the next hour or so, just feeding maggots still. I've persevered on this top kit line, 18 inch, and the best way I found to catch the fish was big pot ground bait. Sounds mad. Big pot ground bait up the shelf. Now, I couldn't catch the fish up the shelf. It doesn't matter how many fish I had, 8 fish there at one time, and I couldn't catch them. They're just too clever. They went round my hook bait, and I couldn't have a nice spot where I could drag it into. So what I thought is, big pot up the shelf, so get the fish in the area, then just feed next to nothing down the shelf in this 18 inches. I'm feeding like 10 micro pellets, drop an expander in, and that's how I've caught them. I've just ticked over there, and it was really weird. They told me that it was 6 to 12 ounce fish, you need a lot of them, and I was catching like 12 to a pound, odd pound and a half. I've had a few carp, and I'm thinking, I must be on the best peg here if I'm catching the massive stamp of fish. Anyway, I ticked over on that. Then it started to fade a bit, which he's going to do because you've clattered them. You clattered these fish, you're dropping them in you're putting them in the net next to where you're fishing, it's going to fade. So I've dropped on this maggots short line, and this is where it's been really interesting. I started shallow because I've seen a few swirls. I've dropped in, flicked it in, it's pulled my elastic out, I've caught one. I'm thinking, oh, happy days, I'll just catch one shallow now. I flicked it back in, it's not even moved. Not gone. Tried all my depths, nothing. So I've gone on the bottom with a 4x10. Like I said, I was catching them on the settle as I'm holding my back shot tight. Dink, getting one like that. Then all of a sudden started to miss a few bites on that, and I'm thinking, well, I can't catch shallow, so these fish are just, maybe my rig's not heavy enough. So I picked them as 4x12, flicked it in, sat there perfectly, gone. And I've had a mint run on that. I've had steady away. As soon as it started to fade and I started to miss a few bites on my short maggot line, I just dropped back in the edge, catch 2 or 3 quick fish, drop there, and it was really weird. They said the match would fade, and this lake's fished different today. That day, I just caught steady all day. I didn't go mad. I didn't have a mad spell. I didn't have a quiet spell. I just caught steady all day. Probably caught like 20 odd fish an hour, which was nice fishing, beautiful fishing. I love catching on maggots down the middle like that. And it's been like that. So we've come the way in, and Richard's weighed 106. I've weighed 134. It's won the section. It also won the lake just. Alex Reynolds nearly had me again, but he was in the other section. I've won the lake, so I was buzzing with that one. And then we got back to the lodge to find out I was second in the festival. Now, to be fair, I'm quite made up that I'm first, second in the festival. It's a big festival, 90 pegger. I've come second to Ryan Lingard, who's done brilliantly, to be fair. The rotation he was in was a difficult one. There's a lot of good anglers in there. I'm not getting wrong, there's a lot of good anglers on the festival, but that one just shone the most of the hardest section, the section of death. He's done really well to catch 3 wins, so well done, mate, on that one. Looking back on my festival, I'm made up. Alex Reynolds was 3rd. I can't remember. Alex Reynolds was 3rd, so well done, mate. I've just picked him on weight, I think, so he was a bit unlucky there because he's fished a lovely few days, especially on that first day. I just couldn't keep up with him, and he just destroyed me. So, but what I want to talk about now is a few things. But if you go to a festival, just to think about the little things and that you need. Now, like I said, it was a lot of maggot fishing, so we're trying to keep my bait as fresh as I can. So what I was doing, what you need is a riddle. Now, it may seem a small thing, but every morning, riddle your maggots off, take the excess maize that's on it, re-clean them, put some new fresh maize on, keep them nice and soft. When you're hooking your hook baits, you don't want to be bursting them because your bait's a bit tough. Now, some days you think, oh, my up point's going, when it's not. It's just your bait's not been soft enough. So that's one precaution to take, is massively when you're going fishing on a festival, make sure, especially with maggots, you riddle them every day and look after them. What we were doing is we had, I think, a 2 gallon, and we were just taking out what we needed, bag them up, get back, take them out the bag, let them come round, let them get lived up again, then re-bag them. It just keeps them nice and fresh and nice and big. Now, I went to Lanes again for these maggots, and as I spoke before, these are the best bait in the country I've used, to be fair. They're massive, they last when you look after them properly with shuffling the maize on and stuff like that. So that's one essential item. The second one is trimming shot. If you look around now, the leaves are turning brown, it's autumn, it's cooler, it's not very warm, it's windy, it's wet, and the fishing isn't like boom anymore. It's getting a lot trickier. Now, trimmer shot is massive. You don't want to be sitting there with too much bristle out the water. When you can get away with fishing a minimal amount of bristle you can see, you've got to use 11 and 12, even 13 trimmer shot just to get it perfect. This weekend was evident of that. I put my shot, put a bit more trimmer shot on, got it dotted down, and the bite's just literally movement. Just strike and the fish is on. Now, if you had a bit more bristle out, you wouldn't even see them movements because you had too much bristle out. So it's just worth thinking about trimming shot, because that is an essential at the minute. It's autumn time, you've got to get out of the process if it's all bagging up. You still catch fish, you'll still catch a lot of fish, but it just makes it easy to see them bites when you've got your float dotted down. And the last one is probably an essential item at the minute, is a bucket cover. Now, with this, it's rained 2 out of the 3 days, it hammered down on the Friday as well, and when you've got your maggots on your peg, the last thing you want is to turn around and all your maggots have crawled out and gone, or blew up and they're all floating. So you just want a nice sturdy bucket cover, keeps all your bait nice and fresh in there, so you get no problems. Even with your ground bait, pellets, just put all your bait in there, keep it nice and dry, and just keeps it in top tip condition. Now, I hope you enjoy this video, just a rundown of Westwood Lakes, and if you haven't been, or even been on Tony's festivals, you want to get yourself there, because they're a great crack, great fishing, and a great time had. So don't forget to like the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you on the bank soon. Cheers.